This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome. My name is Eben Jansen. This show is broadcast live between 9 and 10 a.m. from Johannesburg in South Africa, Monday to Friday. We also have rebroadcasts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on this very channel, and then again at 5 a.m. every morning. Today, we talk to the man at the center of what they call a looming fracture within the labor movement here in South Africa. And then the grass isn't always greener, with thousands of skilled South Africans moving back home from abroad. And then we'll also give you your weekly digital update a little bit later in our show. But first, here are today's news headlines. President Jacob Zuma says under-resourced African Union peacekeeping forces are struggling to contain the conflicts that are afflicting some African states. Security experts have warned that armed conflict in the Central African Republic, Mali and South Sudan pose a serious danger to the continent's stability and economic development. NUMSA has described COSATU's charge sheet against suspended General Secretary Zwelithini as a declaration of war. COSATU confirmed it presented Vavi with the charges 3 days ago. The SABC understands that Vavi will be required to answer to no less than 9 charges. And world boxing icon Floyd Mayweather has not ruled out the possibility of fighting in South Africa before his retirement. The 5-time world champion in different divisions landed in South Africa late yesterday in his first ever visit to the African continent. Good morning to you once again. Congress of South African trade unions have last night broken their silence on a number of issues confronting the giant labour movement since last year. The biggest union federation has been accused of having reached a state of paralysis. COSATU has been quiet on NUMSA's special conference decisions and the suspension of their General Secretary Zwelithini. The Federation's President, Stumo Dlamini, addressed the news conference yesterday. COSATU will meet its largest affiliate, NUMSA, tomorrow to iron out their differences. Now, joining us in the studio today, we have the Federation's President, Stumo Dlamini, with us. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much to having me this morning.
I know it's been quite a busy couple of days for you, but I want to take you back to yesterday, and you know, after the press conference you had, critics came out and they said that you merely endorsed the manifesto of the ANC and that you failed to deal with issues around Mr. Vavi and then also the wider looming crisis within the movement. What is your reaction to that, sir?
Yeah, look, it would be expected that if you participate in a process quite early on time and you have your views expressed there, some taken, some not taken, and the total outcome of that work you've been part of, you reached an agreement in the course of engagement. The logic thing is then you endorse because you have been there. You had issues going in there which are issues of your interest as the organization. And this is exactly what has happened. We were in the process for a long time, and we took the mandate of the Federation into the manifesto processes. We endorsed that based on that fact.
I want to take you to the way forward. You'll be meeting with your largest affiliate, NUMSA, tomorrow, I understand, to iron out some of the differences. Do you see some middle ground in that process? And can you tell us what you expect from this meeting?
Yes, perhaps before I come to that one, because people would then say we failed on the issue of the General Secretary. Yesterday we were addressing the public purely on the election manifesto of the ANC. Yeah. There's nothing about the charges on the General Secretary in that statement. So that will be an unfair call on us. But on the issue you are raising, we also stated that we have asked for a meeting with the leaders of NUMSA for tomorrow or on the 24th if they can't make it tomorrow. We hope in that meeting we will hear NUMSA closer, because we didn't go to their Special National Congress, they did not invite us to address those delegates there. So we watched it on television, your television, and in the newspapers. So we know there are far-reaching decisions taken there. We want to hear them because for all what we hear, they are all in contrast to COSATU's policies. And NUMSA is an affiliate of COSATU.
They went further, actually, this week to call the charge sheet that was presented against the General Secretary as a declaration of war. What do you make of this?
I think it's an unfortunate statement. I think it's an unfortunate statement in the sense that NUMSA and its leadership through and through has been part and parcel of this process. From August, when we held our special Central Executive Committee, NUMSA was there. They expressed their views. They were not happy with some of the things, but the majority of COSATU affiliates agreed on a set of rules going forward in addressing this matter. Now, we are a we are an organization that believes in democratic centralism, which is when we enter into a debate in a constitutional meeting and different views emerge, the last view that remains binds all of us because we are then enjoined in that decision, and it is binding on all of us. That's what democracy is all about.
Now, some say you personally are prepared to fracture the labour movement and destabilise the alliance before this crucial election for what is believed to be quite a personal dispute. Firstly, is it a personal dispute? And secondly, what do you say to that?
Look, it's also, again, unfortunate that people continue to say that. You know why they say it? It's a deflection strategy. So that you don't focus on the issue, just attack one man and say it is that man. I have nothing against my comrade, General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, personally. If anything, I have in many instances been in Vavi's side, saving him, protecting him from horrendous attacks that he has endured as a leader of COSATU at a personal level and also an organizational level. He knows that, and he will be the first one to tell those comrades, no, you are wrong. At a personal level, there can be nothing between me and the president. But on the issues of the organization, we must always preserve and protect a principle, collective leadership and organizational discipline, and we stand by that. When we execute decisions of the organizations, they should not be personalized.
Finally, so I want to ask you, with this meeting that's scheduled for either tomorrow or the 24th, as you said, with NUMSA, is there a chance for a mature political intervention at this time, or are you adamant that the processes must take its course?
Look, we're going into this meeting very, very positive. And I said earlier on, it's unfortunate that NUMSA say there is a declaration of war. There is no declaration of war here. We must engage as comrades. We must respect internal processes. We must do the right things within the federation. It's not about us. It's about the future of this federation, not about any individual.
Thank you very much for joining us today, sir. And we will be expecting the good news, hopefully, before the end of the month. Thank you once again for joining us. Of course, just to recap for you, NUMSA has described COSATU's charge sheet against suspended General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi as a declaration of war. COSATU confirmed it presented Vavi with the charges 3 days ago. Now, the SABC understands that Vavi will be required to answer to 9 charges.
Says, look,
a trusted alliance partner. A news conference to officially endorse the ANC election manifesto.
COSATU believe that this election manifesto believe on the progress made in the past 20 years and introduce key commitment which we agree with.
The Labour Federation wants to meet NUMSA to discuss the biggest affiliate's decision to withdraw its support for the ANC in the election. But the Vavi issue, the elephant in the room, as COSATU refused to elaborate on the charges. Vavi was suspended in August. COSATU has been investigating a number of issues, including allegations of financial impropriety over the sale and purchase of the Federation's headquarters and his sexual affair with a junior colleague. Now the formalization of charges.
The current leadership has been hell-bent in basically acting outside the processes and decisions that are taken. And from where we're sitting, we think that this is nothing less than declaration of a war.
Some political analysts say the gloves are indeed off and the relations are now beyond repair.
The damage might have been done already. I do not see this resolving anything within COSATU, particularly about this question of Mr. Vavi.
Yolisa Njamela, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, we are 16 days into the new year and service delivery protests are once again in the headlines. Yesterday, community members from an informal settlement between Acacia and Kopanong, north of Pretoria, blocked Metro Rail railway lines to Mabopane with rocks, burning tyres, severely affecting trains going to Mabopane. On the line, we have Nana Zenani from Prasa Rail. Good morning, Nana. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Morning, Eben.
I understand you're back in Cape Town, but can you give us an update on the latest outside of Mabopane?
Well, we're happy to report that the services are back and running. However, we don't rule out the possibility of similar incidences taking place, which is why it's so important that we appeal to the community to please protect the services, because those lines are critical in taking the millions of people to and from work every day. When we have interruptions like these, especially in the Gauteng line, it's not just the Kopanong line that gets affected, it's actually the entire service, because our trains run in a particularly linear format. So you need all of the areas to be functional in order for the service to be optimal for our passengers.
You say services are back to normal, but are you beefing up security to try and deal with any future protests?
We have indeed made contact with the SAPs as well as our community representatives on the ground to be on the lookout. We are just hopeful that people will be understanding of the fact that the service that they're actually interrupting has areas in it that are very, very difficult to repair. The money that it will take and the impact on the economy in terms of people traveling can be huge if we are indeed moving 2.5 million people per day.
Just tell us about the wider issues that you then, is it unique to this area, or are there other parts of the country where you are facing similar challenges?
We've been fortunate in that we have not faced any of these. We've had sporadic incidences that have sort of died down. But what we don't want is a resurgence or a trend of any sort that actually mimics the type of behavior we saw yesterday night. We're appealing to the public, in fact, to really protect the rail services. It is the cheapest form of public transportation there is. It handles a larger population of South Africans to and from work. Without it, we will have difficulties in terms of getting 2,000 odd people per train set to now go into taxis. People have budgeted for their monthly tickets. They need the service to run. We can't then compensate it if it actually has been damaged.
Nana Zenani, thank you for joining us with that update. Of course, that is a developing story after rail services were interrupted yesterday just outside of Mabopane, between the areas of Acacia and Kopanong. That is north of Pretoria. And we just spoke to Nana Zenani from Prasa Rail, that is. Moving on, another resident of Motutlong near Brits has died after he allegedly tried to escape from a moving SABC Nyala armoured vehicle. This brings the number of people who died in the service delivery protest in the northwest town of Brits to 3. The situation remained calm and police are patrolling the area today. Our Pretoria office have been following the developments in that area, and we are joined by Offense Sitimo in Pretoria. Good morning, Offense.
Good morning, Eben.
Offense, please give us the latest on the situation there in outside of Brits in Motutlong.
Well, residents are actually waiting with bated breath to see what government has promised that water supply will be active by tomorrow. So they're saying government's time is up and that the problem has run for far too long. And then they have up until tomorrow that water supply has to be restored. What has happened, like you mentioned earlier, there is someone who has died following jumping from a moving police nyala and bringing the number up to 3 so far. And the plot seems to thicken because there are different bodies that are investigating the incidents that occurred there at Motutlong. We know that the IPID, which is the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, is also investigating the deaths and the shooting that has happened. And NUMSA has also stepped into the plate, saying the Minister of Police, Natim Tetwa, and the Police Commissioner, Ria Piega, have to suspend the police officers that shot at the community who were protesting because of the water shortages. NUMSA as well also stepped in to say that there should be investigations between people who supply water through tankers whenever there's a shortage and the government officials. Apparently, there are allegations that the service providers might be the ones sabotaging the water supply, as there are some unconfirmed reports stating that the service providers actually earn something like 1.3 million rands per month just to provide water to Motutlong through the tankers. So far, a lot of bodies are getting involved in the incidents that happened there. The plot seems to thicken, and it seems people are just waiting for tomorrow to see if the water supply will be back to normal.
Just this whole issue has brought, once again, as always, police brutality and then political intolerance also under the spotlight. What are people talking about in this space?
Well, at this instant, people are very frustrated about the fact that, they've been protesting over the years about the issue of water shortage. Initially, when I did the story back in 2012, when there was a previous mayor running the municipality, the issue was the fact that there was an accumulation of mud in the reservoirs. When we spoke to the technicians at the water reticulation plant there in Brits, they explained that there was a accumulation of mud within the reservoirs, which actually amounted to water coming out brown in color or sometimes being an erratic supply of water. But the people are saying that enough is enough. I mean, it's been 20 years into democracy, but it seems that water supply, it's still stagnant there at Motutlong.
I'm sure you'll keep us posted as to how that story develops, Offense. Is there any other news coming out of the capital today?
Yes, we're also focusing on Education Minister, Higher Education Minister Bladen Zimande will be launching the white paper on post-school education, where they will try to focus on addressing the issue of skills shortage through formulating a tertiary institution where people who are training for scarce skills can be accommodated. So we're actually going to find out what the minister has in store, how he's going to change the current system, because they want to encourage people to now go into FET colleges, of which previously accommodated people who had not completed their matric schooling to go into practical work education. So we're going to find out what changes will be brought into the system and how people who have not passed matric can be accommodated somehow. And another story that we're working on is the Ekangala, the bail hearing of 4 police officers who actually murdered Boy Mahlangu for parking illegally and for driving an unlicensed vehicle on Christmas Day. Their bail hearing is continuing today at Ekangala. We're also going to be monitoring that to see whether they will be granted bail. But the prosecution authority mentioned that they will oppose bail at all costs, as they believe that they have a strong case against the police officers. And another story, will be monitoring Motutlong as well to see if maybe people are working. I mean, the service providers have started to provide the water, and whether the work has started to see if maybe the water service will be available by tomorrow. Those are some of the stories we're actually looking at today.
Looks like a very busy news day in the capital. Offense, thank you very much for letting us know what is happening in Pretoria. That is Offense Sitima, who will be updating us as to what's happening in the capital. Behind me, you can see that we're ready to have a look at what you're thinking and saying on social media. Of course, Zuko says prediction. COSATU suspends NUMSA in order for them to not be able to attend the special Congress. Of course, everyone has got a take on it. We'll see how that story develops. And Ronnie says FAR will want to return Avavi back to his office as an elected GS and on holding of special National Congress by March. Will COSATU survive, asks Ronnie. Prince Sam says NUMSA is serving the working class, COSATU is serving capitalists and the ANC. NUMSA must record all over South Africa. Workers must join NUMSA. Rabs Muketsi says Duma Damini's very own charge sheet will have one charge against him, being a puppet at the cost of the workers, says Rabs Muketsi. And Zintle says COSATU is 100% behind the ANC, and I ask, what about more than 10,000 members who demonstrated against ETAL and labour brokers? To Hull, you say. And of course, this is from the Pig Spotter. Random thought, so the ANC called COSATU's bluff regarding ETALs and they proceeded. Is COSATU rolling over or have they been paid off? I thought that Pig Spotter was only talking about traffic. Spieware says, a lot of the time I wonder what is COSATU's real agenda and whose interests do they serve? That is interesting comments, I thought. Interesting stuff coming in on social media. Of course, after a short break, we look at why so many South African professional people are returning home after stints living abroad. Of course, you can contact us at SABC Newsroom, and that is the website address there on your screen. We're back after a short break.
SABC News plays a critical role in providing unbiased and reliable news. We have a well-established reputation of uncovering, reporting and delivering news. A significant growth in popularity of our news demonstrates the demand for our news content. We continue to provide unrivaled coverage of vital events in and out of the country. Wherever the news is happening, we'll be there to bring them to you at the right time. No one has the news covered like SABC News. We lead and they follow. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Well, good evening. Welcome to yet another bumper edition of Sports Live. Tonight we have a bit of a triple threat in the show.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News, Channel 404.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom on SABC News. South Africa's brain drain problems have been reversed over the past few years, thanks in part to weak economies elsewhere in the world. An AdCorp employment report released this week shows that since the global financial crisis began in 2008, close to 360,000 high-skilled South Africans have returned home from foreign work assignments. AdCorp labour market economist Lone Sharp joins us today in studio to talk about what this trend means for local business and then the wider economy. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Evan.
Let's start at the beginning. What are the main reasons? People always paint this bleak picture about how terrible our country is and how things are not working. What are the main reasons for people coming back? It must be financial, but there must be other factors as well.
Yeah, I think South Africans have great expectations when they leave to other English-speaking countries, which are the main destination for emigrating South Africans, like the US and the UK, Canada and Australia. And their expectations are to some extent met, but their standards of living drop, and I think they only realize this when they are abroad. So weak labour markets in those English-speaking countries have come at a time when South Africa is desperately short of skills. So there are 829,000 vacancies in the private sector in South Africa. These are high-skilled jobs that could be filled immediately if only the skills were available. So to give you an example, the general unemployment rate for the population as a whole is 37%. The unemployment rate for high-skilled professionals is just 0.4%. So the South African labour market has been much stronger for high-skilled professionals, and wages have risen much more rapidly than they have in other countries around the world.
What does this mean? You know, we always talk about unemployment, people coming out of university, can't get jobs and so forth. What does it mean for graduates looking for jobs in South Africa? Some people say it's a negative. I think it's actually a positive, wouldn't it be?
Well, the university and other tertiary institutions in South Africa are not producing the kind of skills that the workplace requires. So, for example, at universities, the professional bodies have a cozy arrangement with the universities where they're increasing the supply of doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers and so on by just between 0.1 and 2% per annum, where the economy actually needs 8 or 9% per annum growth in these professions. At the same time, universities are diverting students into the arts and humanities and social sciences where there isn't great demand in the workplace. Our FET college system is a shambles. You have no greater chance of finding work with an FET qualification than without it. And this is worrying because government is spending resources more and more on FET colleges. So the local supply of high-skilled labour is very, very small. And combining that with tough immigration laws that make it very hard for foreigners with high skills to work in South Africa, we have a very limited supply. So it's great news that South Africans are returning from abroad in large numbers.
I want to go back to those who are returning. Yes, it's good news and it's a positive, and you know, it peps up the mood of South Africans that people are actually coming back. But what does it mean for the wider economy?
Well, for every South African who returns from abroad, in fact, every high-skilled job that is created, the number of lesser skilled jobs that is created in the formal and informal sectors is between 8 and 9. So for one job, we create an extra 8 or 9 jobs. It's not simply a case of foreigners or foreign South Africans taking a job from a local South African. The labour market for high skills is so stretched that it can absorb nearly 1 million people before we have problems. So I think this is an incredibly positive thing for South Africa. There's no question that the overall limit to our growth rate as an economy is the absence of skills. So anything that boosts our local supply of skills is very positive for the economy and long-term growth.
Finally, I want to ask you, how long do you see this trend continuing in South Africa?
It will continue, I think, as long as labour markets in other countries remain depressed. There are signs that the labour market in the United States is turning around, but at the same time, the US has made it much harder for foreigners to enter that country. Labour markets are not yet turning around in the UK or Europe or Australia. So I think we've probably got 3 to 5 years of continuing return by South Africans from abroad.
And just quickly, how many people come back every year, or sort of an average?
It varies, and it has been rising over the last few years, about 60,000 in 2013 alone. We notice from government statistics on tourism and migration that the number of South Africans leaving every month exceeds the number returning by between 2 and 11,000. So there is still a net immigration, but that's probably people traveling on different passports, people traveling for tourism purposes. From a work seeker point of view, over the last 5 years, the trend has been net immigration.
That is very, very good news. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. That is AdCorp labour market economist Loan Sharp, bringing us a little bit of good news that all is not doom and gloom here in South Africa. Thank you. Moving on, Trade Union Solidarity says it's shocked at the police's decision to appeal the Renata Barnard affirmative action case, taking it to the highest court in the land. Barnard has been fighting for 8 years over what she believes to have been an unfair decision not to promote her through the police ranks. Solidarity will oppose the latest appeal at the Constitutional Court, they say. Now, the Solidarity's Chief Executive Officer, Dirk Herman, joins us from our studio in Pretoria. Good morning, Dirk. Just give us your initial reaction to the SAPS's latest action.
Well, we are very disappointed, and the reasons for that is, in the first place, that we don't think that the Constitutional Court will come to another finding. And that's also the reason why we will oppose this specific application for leave to appeal. But there's a second reason as well. And the second reason is that Renata Barnard is now fighting this specific legal battle for 8 years. In the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein, a very balanced judgment was given. And that means that she actually received justice in that specific court. And now she must actually go on for another legal battle, and this is to the Constitutional Court. Our concern at this stage is that the South African Police Service take a stance that affirmative action is the highest authority in South Africa, and they don't take into account other rights like the right to dignity and the right to equality, and also, of course, the right of good service delivery of the public. If you look at one of the reasons why Renata Barnard was actually recommended for this specific post by the panel was for good service delivery. But the National Commissioner then refused this specific appointment for only one reason, and that is affirmative action. I think this is not a case about affirmative action at all, but it is a case of when is affirmative action actually applied in an absolute wrong manner, and that is to the detriment of the applicant and also to South Africa in a whole.
Now, Dirk, can you give us let's face a little human, the story, a human face, and also maybe recap some of the high points of this case over the last few years?
I think we must see Renata also as a person with passion. The Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein criticized the Labour Appeal Court for the fact that they did not take into account the passion of Renata Barnard. Now, Renata Barnard has only one passion in life, and that is to serve the police. It was started when she was 6 years old as a girl that said that I only want to go to the police. Her father was in the police, her brother is in the police, and she came thus from a whole police family. And the fact is that she wants to serve. And the only thing that stands between her and serving the public is the color of her skin. Now, she applied for a specific post in the police service, was recommended by the panel by far as the best candidate. The second time, and then she was refused on affirmative action reasons. She applied again. The second time, the regional commissioner recommended her and said that for affirmative action, for service delivery reasons, she must be appointed. And then the national commissioner said no, for affirmative action, she can't be appointed. And then a third time, the specific post was advertised. She applied again, but then they scrapped the whole post. And of course, the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein said that led to poorer service delivery to South Africa. So we must get a balance between the rights of the public, the rights of the individual, and of course affirmative action.
I want to ask you about affirmative action and Solidarity as a union. What is your position on affirmative action?
There's no doubt that in South Africa there's imbalances, and the imbalances must be addressed. But we must do that in a very cautious way, in a balanced way, so that you take into account all the rights of all the different parties in the whole process. So what we ask thus for a more nuanced approach if it comes to affirmative action. You can't have only a racial quota approach, because that's at the end of the day, in a paradoxical way, to the detriment of also those that's supposed to get the benefit, and that is the general public.
Well, Dirk, I hope that you get the results that you want. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. That is Solidarity Chief Executive Officer Dirk Herman, who joined us from Pretoria. Thank you once again. Well, let's take a quick look at what you're thinking about and saying and talking about on social media. Of course, it's been very busy. We've got a weather report from Gauteng Weather. Today, 19 and 37, partly cloudy and rain. Suppose we will not be getting on our bicycles this afternoon. At 37 degrees, you might be playing with your life. At Weather SA, absolute scorcher expected across Gauteng on Thursday. Today could very well be one of the hottest days this summer, says Combat Arena. Tamarin says SA Weather Service has issued a watch for heatwave conditions in Gauteng from Thursday through till Saturday. Guess I will be riding at 5 a.m. Tamarin, some of us can't be riding that early. Guess I'll be hanging by the pool for most of the rest of the week. Enjoying a cloudy, cool evening, especially as just heard that Gauteng is going to be hit by a heatwave. Keep it coming. If you've got pictures of the heatwave, send us how you spent the weekend or the next couple of days. It's been so hot at SABC Newsroom. That's where you can tag us and send your pictures and your contributions and whatever else you have. If it's got anything to do with very hot weather in Gauteng, send it through. We'd love to see what you're doing and how you're dealing with it. At SABC Newsroom on the red line, on the blue line, sabc.co.za/news. That's where we live. We're going to be back after a short commercial break.
Hello and welcome to Rights and Recourse, the show that explores your legal rights and recourse to those violated. I'm your host, Dumila Matez. Will the ban on alcohol or the marketing of alcoholic beverages include things like sorghum beer, homemade beer and those kind of things?
I think what must be clear is that we are not banning the industry, not at all. We are controlling the industry.
As I'm sitting here, I'm actually agreeing with the minister violently.
Advertisement says to young people, it's cool to drink. Drinking is associated with success. Drinking is associated with celebrities.
We cannot afford to have adverts on television that glorifies alcohol.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
President Jacob Zuma says under-resourced African Union peacekeeping forces are struggling to contain the conflicts that are afflicting some African states. Security experts have warned that armed conflicts in the Central African Republic, Mali and South Sudan pose a serious danger to the continent's stability and economic development. NUMSA has described COSATU's charge sheet against suspended General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi as a declaration of war. COSATU confirmed it presented Vavi with the charges 3 days ago. The SABC understands that Vavi will be required to answer to no less than 9 charges. And in sport, boxing icon Floyd Money Mayweather has not ruled out the possibility of fighting in South Africa before his retirement. The 5-time world champion in different divisions landed in South Africa late yesterday in his first ever visit to the African continent. A 78-year-old woman from Bloemfontein has been charged with animal cruelty after the SPCA found she had 26 dogs on her property, most of them in a serious state of neglect. Some of the dogs were found in the washing machine, in the tumble dryer, in boxes and in cupboards, which were all closed. Well, we're now going to cross to Bloemfontein, where SABC special correspondent Richard Newton is in studio to tell us more about this horrific story. Good morning, Richard. Incredible story, isn't it?
It's bizarre, Eben. You know, the SPCA received this tip-off, and when they went to the house, as you say, 26 dogs, some of them in washing machines, some of them in apple boxes, some of them in cupboards and in drawers. The house was pitch dark, and the officials from the animal welfare organisation were saying that a number of the dogs really battled to adjust to the light when they were taken out of the house. And it was, what one official said to me, a case of animal hoarding, if you like. And we've seen programs about people who keep all manner of things, but to keep animals in various boxes and cupboards and drawers is just almost unheard of.
Now, Richard, I've never heard of animals being kept in washing machines and tumble dryers. Apart from doing the washing, was it just sort of storing them?
That's correct. When the officials from the SPCA went in, for example, the washing machine had a cover over it, and they opened the washing machine because they heard a noise coming from inside. And when they took off the cover and lifted the lid of the washing machine, there was a Maltese poodle in the washing machine, and it had been fed, but it was unfortunately in a rather bad state and had to be put down. But these dogs were in various places, I say, and in various stages of neglect, but they had actually been stored, if you like, in some of these places. And as I say, the officials who investigated this were pretty horrified themselves. The person who is alleged to be responsible for this is, however, known to the SPCA, and I'm told that over a 10-year period, a total of 320 animals, now we're talking dogs, we're talking cats, we're talking rabbits, we're talking birds, have all been removed from this particular house.
And where are the dogs now, Richard? And you mentioned one have been put down. Is that the only one?
No, well, tragically, I think 16 of the dogs have had to be put down. They were taken to veterinary surgeons who said that it would be more humane to 16 of them at least put down. The ones that are remaining are part of a court case. They are being kept by the SPCA in a separate location and will form part of the court case that is going on. And when I spoke to the officials yesterday, I was saying that you have had interaction with this person before. Why only taking action now? And they said that in the past it had been a case of this person had too many animals on the property, but in subsequent visits they saw that the degree of animal cruelty and what was happening to these animals had got to such an extent that there was no other option but to take action and to lay charges against this person.
Now, you say that they lay charges. What does the charge sheet sort of look at? It must be quite a wide-ranging charge sheet, I would think.
Well, the charges are all of animal cruelty, so it all comes down to various charges of animal cruelty. What has happened in the case is that the prosecution have requested the court to order a period of psychiatric evaluation for the person who's been accused of this. And I'm told that if found guilty, the punishment can range from a heavy fine to even some time in prison, given that the person who's accused is really elderly pensioner. That's unlikely. But there can also be an order made that the person is forbidden from having any pets or animals on their property.
Well, Richard, thank you for that contribution. It's certainly a shocking story, and I'm sure one that will be hogging the headlines for the next week or so. Thank you, Richard Newton, our special correspondent, coming to you from Bloemfontein with a story of a 78-year-old woman from that city that has been charged with animal cruelty after the SPCA found she had 26 dogs on her property. Some of them were kept in the washing machine and in the tumble dryer, and they weren't clean. They were in a complete state. But we'll leave that there. We have to move on. Time for us to take a look at what's been happening in the online space and on the social media front. And joining me is a digital media specialist from our digital news team, Tegan Bedser. Good morning, Teaser. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's been a very interesting week, sort of. Let's start. I want to start with the development of the Newsroom stuff on the digital platform, on our YouTube channels. We now have our own playlist for easy access. Just tell us how that works and how people can access that.
Absolutely. We've had recordings of Newsroom for quite some time now, and now we are recording the full show. So viewers who've missed out, they can watch the entire show and then also catch up on those recordings that we've had on on our YouTube channel for quite some time now, and there's more exciting things to look forward to on the website itself. You've got a social media presence, and now on our SABC News website, there's more interactivity. There's going to be multimedia-rich content, so viewers can log on to SABC News News website and read up on stories and view a whole lot of more multimedia material.
I wanted to come back to the news, of course, COSATU's press briefing on the election manifesto yesterday, and then, of course, there's always a lot. People always have a lot to say about Zwelinzima Vavi, and others this week included the TNA breakfast with the president. Just tell us how we covered it and what the sort of response was.
Certainly. Our live streaming is an important part of our YouTube channel. And so we live streamed the COSATU press conference as well as the TNA business breakfast with Zuma. And although we didn't live stream the Floyd Mayweather conference, we took a recording, and so that is available. So boxing fanatics are in for a treat. They can go and check it out.
Why don't you ask you about Floyd Mayweather, because you know he's so big all over the world. One of the all-time greats in boxing in South Africa, and after yesterday. What's been the response to the public? Have you been hurling abuse at him?
Well, largely it's been positive. People love his antics, so they're watching very, very closely because he is a colourful character. There
was also, of course, the New Beginnings, grade ones this week, went to school. There was a call by you guys for parents to send in pictures of their children's first day of big school, as we call it in South Africa. You must have had some really great submissions.
The submissions were fantastic.
We're just looking at some of the pictures.
Largely happy, smiling faces. We did have one really sad-looking chap. I'm sure he'll be coming up shortly. Very emotional, but proud parents, even proud siblings sending. There he is.
There we go. Oops. First day at big school. Oh, I don't want to do this big business.
Definitely not. He was not having it at all. But largely very happy school, first-time school goers. And proud parents, siblings were sending in pictures of the younger brother or sister and saying, "Oh, I'm so proud." So the response has been great, and it's been trending on Twitter. #BackToSchool. It's been brilliant. Folks have been reminiscing about their school days and also just wishing the new learners luck.
My daughter also went to grade 1 on Wednesday. She's turning 7 now this month. But she only had one complaint. They didn't allow her to play on the big jungle gym because it was for the grade 3s and above at school. So she's already got a complaint. I asked her to go and speak to the principal about it. You know. Then it's the ANC's birthday week last week, and the manifesto has been launched, all of that. Just tell us how we covered that sort of heavy political scenarios that played out.
Well, Eben, we created a special report on our website, so it's still available, and users and viewers can check it out. And our coverage was extensive. We sent out our team with radio and TV teams as well. And on the website, we publish the best of radio and TV. But what we look for is content or stories that you wouldn't find perhaps on the primetime news bulletin. You'd have the more colourful pieces, the scene setters. So there was a gala dinner, and you wondered, well, what is on the menu? So we interviewed the head chef and the waitrons and got a little bit of an inside scoop on what was happening at the gala dinner. There were photo galleries of the arrivals at the dinner, and then we had galleries also of the rally itself, and video of the stadium and how it was filling up. We balanced this with some harder news coverage. We had political analysts weighing in. And some interviews with NEC members. The coverage was really, really extensive.
Well, it's fantastic work you guys doing on our digital platform, Tegan. Thank you for joining us this morning. That is digital specialist Tegan Bedser, giving us a little look in as to what's been happening in the last couple of days. And I'm sure that you'll be sending your heatwave pictures that'll be coming in over the next couple of days here in Gauteng, as we expect a heatwave. But let's take a look at what you're thinking and saying. Of course, earlier you were talking about the heatwave. We want you to send up pictures. Of course, it's Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather taking cheap shots at each other. Will you guys fight already, says Anirudh. It's the most high expected fight in the world. I expect them to fight in South Africa in December of this year, but that's my little take. Floyd Mayweather is scared of Manny Pacquiao, period. You know you're going to take that L. Zay says Sports Center Floyd Mayweather says he'll decide on his next opponent within the week, but that it will not be Manny Pacquiao. Yes, he'll fight somebody probably in about June, July, and I'm telling you he's going to fight in South Africa in December later this year and probably retire after that, because the one thing that he doesn't need any more of is money. After all, it's Floyd money. Mayweather might fight Amir Khan or Marcos Maidana next. Said he is not boxing Manny Pacquiao next. Of course, keep it coming at SABC Newsroom. That's where we want your contribution, at SABC Newsroom, on our Twitter page. Of course, YouTube/SABC News. If you go to YouTube, SABC Digital News, that's where everything lives. You put in the name of the show now, Newsroom. You can get the full show. You can watch it wherever you are in the world. Newsroom can be had by you. Of course, the show has been broadcast live and between 9 and 10 a.m. weekdays from Johannesburg in South Africa. Don't forget, highlights of the show is rebroadcast at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, every afternoon, with another rebroadcast at 5 a.m. every morning. AM News is next with updates from around the world. We'll be back tomorrow in the same slot. This is Newsroom on SABC News. We love it in the morning.